Hi. I'd just like to clarify in the beginning that I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not anybody special. I'm just a guy doing a video log. If something in here happens to resonate with you and maybe you're on the same path I am, similar problems, then maybe some of the solutions I've found you'll find effective as well. I found quite a few good resources out there. I'd like to say up front that there isn't an easy way to get through depression and feelings and stuff like that. And there are ways to hide it and ways to deal with it, but to truly overcome it. Yeah, I'm spent the last 10 months kind of actively researching this while practicing, and succeeded in a couple of ways, failed in others, but have a really good idea, I feel now, of what actually needs to be done, which later I'll give some references. But one of the most influential people would be David Goggins. And it's just the way he breaks it down and what he put himself through it's possible, but it's very, very difficult. If you're just looking for an easy route or a quick fix or some trick, hey, I hate to disappoint you. This is just my story of how I'm battling through this and some of the resources I found. This is not a quick thing. It's not an easy thing. In fact, even Mr. Goggins would say this is the hardest thing he's ever done. I'm just going to start and tell you a little bit about myself, my backgrounds, where my problems are, and if you feel you can relate and get something out of it, great. If not, for me, this is, like I said, a video log, and it's a way of putting my feelings, emotions, and research and learning out there. It is more for helping myself than others, but if even one person gets help, then that is amazing too. Since I was a kid, and it just got worse as I got older, I think a lot of my problems stem from lack of social skills. Lots of uncomfortable silences because I don't know what to say, when to say it, how to say it. Or there's even just a fear of saying it. You want to say something, but just turning those thoughts into sounds is sometimes a great effort. Being of a very introverted nature has just kind of led to a lonely life. With this loneliness, depression, it's kind of become my comfort zone. It's that warm blanket you can pull on. It just makes you feel comfortable in your misery. It's just what I got used to. And yes, depression has been fairly severe. With my first attempt around 13, I've done a lot of stupid thing in my life, but other than 2 times, my follow through never really made it successful. And there's times like those 2 times when you go over the ledge and you know it's impossible for you to pull yourself back. That's when you start to believe in miracles. You just wake up on the ground or something else, and it's, how am I even here? That's not even possible. But, and you get up and move on with your life because you're still here. I've dealt with this a lot. I've bounced back and forth. I try to balance it sometimes with just getting obsessive and maniacal, but especially as a kid, but I lost that edge years ago. And within the last 5 years, I've been trying to get it back, because that edge leads to the potential of positivity, of going down a different road, not being totally dead inside. Not even being able to tell am I dreaming or am I awake? I don't even know sometimes. It's just one long spiral. Another big issue with that is the self-doubt that accrues, and the lies you tell yourself, you tell others, just pretending to keep an outward appearance up so no one knows how you feel inside. I don't want people to know how I feel. These video logs are the first documentation I've ever put out for this. Like I said, it's not for attention. It's just for, a lot of it is retrospect. I want to be able to look back today and see, where was I yesterday? Where was I last month? Where was I last year? It's very important to have a baseline. So when the frustration comes in, you have something valid you can see. I'll talk a little more about that later. I'll give you a little history about myself. Got expelled from high school about age 13. Like I said, I was a little suicidal back then and was having other problems. Ended up going to a reform school / mental institute for 4 years. Honestly, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. The people I met there dictated the positive directions my life has taken. I still have a couple of friends from there, that anytime, anywhere kind of people. And I'm saying for them. But with the good comes the bad. I spent almost 30 years dwelling on the bad. I think that's enough. Comes time to move on after a while. Anyway, yeah, I lived my life for a while out of there, doing random things, sometimes going through 3 or 4 jobs a year, bouncing around. Never really found too much that I super liked. So things are interesting for a while and they fade out. I mean, just kind of the way it goes. Spent most of my life working in construction fields and whatnot. Decided to start traveling the country in 2004, 25, 30 grand in debt, working all the time. Then working for like 40 hours, more than that, just, kind of help out, staying for 4 years on a friend's place. 120-acre horse farm, so there's always a lot to do. No matter what I did, I just couldn't maintain much happiness. I mean, there are great people there, but the problem is internal. The brain is just such a strong pro or con, whichever way you let it go. I left in 2004 and had 25, 30 grand in debt. Pretty much all I had was my car and stuff in it. And since I knew I wouldn't have the money to do it, I just did it. And that kind of began a little over a decade stretch of homelessness in over a dozen states and 3 different countries. When you don't care about yourself, it doesn't really matter where the comforts are. As I said before, my biggest comfort was a warm blanket of misery I brought everywhere with me. So I just lived out of my car in a tent. I did that for 6 years. Then I hit a deer with my car and did some serious thinking, realizing the money I was spending on that, I could just take public transportation, Thus began living out of my backpack for many more years. Being homeless is a lifestyle choice. A lot of people don't understand. They just think of the bums on the street corners. They don't realize in 10 years, I never had to put up a cardboard sign, and I had enough dignity and pride, at least, to respect other people and not, have to ask them for anything. I'd rather go 2 days without eating than to have to ask somebody for something. I may be constantly miserable, but I still had some level of pride. About 5 years ago, I actually ended up in another country with a new friend and really broke down and went through all of this. And she also had different problems, but every bit as impactful. We really helped each other out, and that gave me motivation to start trying again, new things. I had almost all but given up at that point. About 5 years ago, ended up going to another country where I met my fiance. I should be happy at this point. I have a great fiance. I have a son that turns 3 years old in a month. And last year, around August, we were able to move into a house I had built over there. Little 2-story deal. But when you're constantly fighting with yourself, happiness just isn't that easy. It should be a natural thing. It's not something that I've tried so many years to force it, and I just don't believe that's a reasonable thing or even possible. I've tried lots of other things. Pretty much all I do anymore is just drink occasionally. After failing many times, I knew part of the problem was that failure in itself is not the problem. It's saying, I failed, and that's it. Or trying to do something, and maybe I make it a month, maybe a month and a half. One time I pushed through for culinary school for 3.5 months before I quit. That's my longest record ever. So I kept trying over the last few years, but it's been like this. It just hasn't, nothing is stuck. The motivation to keep going, I just would sputter off. It's like the, stereotypical diet. People say, oh, I'll eat different, I'll lose weight, then I'll be good. But then you stop. The weight comes back. You get depressed again. Diets, most people will not make a lifetime habit. It's when you get to a point, you get so low, you get so dead inside. In my situation, now I have a family to think about. I can't afford to do stupid things anymore. They won't be able to get by without me. So, not easily, and maybe not at all. So that would be beyond an asshole to continue even thinking in my old frame of mind. So I decided I'm going to get hard. I don't have a choice anymore. I fucked around too much during my life. This is now a personal thing for my family. It's not about me. September of last year, came back from overseas. I was trying to set up in Oregon. In a month, I just couldn't find anywhere to rent. I mean, there's places to rent, and I got enough money at the time. I could just throw down an entire year's rent, It was like working in Alaska for enough last couple of years, and some of those boat jobs, had left me with a little cushion. So I figured I would not have a problem. But due to their rental laws, it is so frustrating. I'm not an Oregon resident. I don't have a current job. I had never rented before, so no rental history. And I also really don't have any credit history because I cut up my last credit cards in early 2004. That was over half of the reason I was in debt so much. These 4 factors made it virtually impossible to rent anywhere in Portland. I mean, it's possible, of course, but I just got frustrated after a couple of weeks, and that was all the beating my head against the wall, and the frustration came back in again. The old feelings of why bother? I only pushed for as long as I did because of my family. So, but I went to regroup. So I ended up just getting a monthly hotel thing was the best I could find near there. And so I sat there going through about half a gallon of rum and eggnog about every 4 or 5 days, watching TV, eating, maybe going out for a little bit of walk, but just sitting there being miserable, knowing I can't do this. One thing I do believe in is that miracles do happen. They're all around us if you're willing to see them. You have to have an open mind and be ready. I did stage my life. I mean, I was over 270 pounds again, drinking heavily, feeling massively depressed and overwhelmed. But because of my family, I really wanted to change. Not just the motivation to start, it was like, what direction do you even go in? I'm watching TV. Greatest Showman. I like that movie. Growing up, I've always been a big fan of the circus. And it really blew me away that after almost 150 years or something, Barnum and Bailey is no more. While watching, I'm often doing random web searches and stuff, and I'll just have little spots and maybe get a momentary inspiration to check something out and see, oh, maybe this will help, maybe this, or just to see what something is. And I don't know why, maybe I was just curious. Ended up searching other filmography Zendaya had been in, which, I don't know, it seemed like a decent actress. And, you know, just another celebrity, nothing really blowing my skirt up, but I'm not sure why I chose to look around. Maybe I was just looking for a different venue, just out of curiosity. And found some Disney movie she had been in. It was some old Disney movie of hers. Just did like a dance off. And yeah, I like those where start off and like arrogant cheerleaders, and she's a new kid in, so nobody wants to do her own routine, but in the end shows everybody up. And we all like movies where get to see people get their just desserts in the end. It was amusing. For some reason I kept going farther though, and started researching as to who she was as a person, and was really blown away. In a lot of ways it seemed very similar personalities, almost like looking into a mirror, but at the same time completely different. Same in the way as far as openness, straightforwardness, kindness, generosity. Different in the way everything she's done has been in a positive direction, bettering herself and the people around her, everyone she comes in contact with. And an extrovert in those respects is the complete opposite of the road I chose. At the core, I saw we're really close. However, the paths of life went like that. It's all choices. What that showed me, gave me the glimpse of for the very first time, was a possible potential I might possess. I don't want to be here. I don't want to have what she has, but I would like the happiness. I would like the ability to positively impact people. I would like the strength to survive that. That I see in her is she has achieved what successful people achieve. Powerful mindset. The mindset is the one key to fixing virtually everything. To quote Goggins, if you have an indestructible mindset, you are very unstoppable. Getting there, though, that is intense. I've been following his journey and a couple of others, specifically David Goggins, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Will Smith, Dwayne Johnson. These guys have all hardened themselves to the mentality needed to achieve virtually anything. And these four especially, because they all started with not very much. They had to pretty much drop what they were at the time and rebuild from scratch. As Goggins would say, another human being. It's just incredible what is possible. Zendaya showed me where my potential could lie. I want that. She gave me the motivation to start looking and seeing things. And for the first time in my life, I see change, real change, lasting change. If it wasn't for her being who she is, I wouldn't be here now. Not making this video, not thinking in such a positive direction, possibly not here at all. It is possible I have created a personification of her that is inaccurate, but it's what I saw. It's what I needed at the time to focus on. I needed something, some anchor, anything, something to grasp onto. Now, I would do that every single day. Anytime I felt myself slipping, I just think, what was Zendaya do? No matter what I was doing, as I get frustrated, it helped me calm down. As I'm starting out an exercise from such an overweight place, as motivation to keep going, to push harder, to go longer. It was motivation to start looking and see what else is out there. I started off with some ideas and moved towards others. It was almost 3 weeks later before I started finding some goal, something to actually strive for. But thanks to her, I have this euphoric feeling while I'm doing it. I'm no longer feeling this overwhelming burden weighing me down. I started listening to motivational tapes on YouTube. I'll give some links in the comments. Began just listening to continue building my motivation and keeping it, maintaining it. And I learned a lot. I started listening to the people I was talking about. Listen to Schwarzenegger's story about how he started in Austria and against all odds, made it over here, pushed himself through ridiculous physical, smiling while he did it, he would say. People at the gym would say he was crazy. He had the mindset. He had the goal. He had the will to do it. Dwayne Johnson, his football career fell out. He needed another option. He didn't have shit, but he just kept bowling at it with the refusal to give up and continue on endlessly.